Before MADtv made stars and ER launched careers, a forgotten sketch comedy show at Harlem's legendary Apollo Theater was quietly launching comedy legends. But its late-night time slot doomed it to obscurity. From the comedian who wore tremendously silly hats to the future video game voice acting queen, here are the bizarre stories behind television's most underrated comedy incubator. Fact 1. It launched a comedy legend's career. The Apollo Comedy Hour holds a special place in comedy history as the launching pad for one of stand-up's most influential voices. The late Patrice O'Neal, who would go on to become a beloved figure in the comedy world, made his very first television appearance on this show in 1992. At the time, O'Neal was a relatively unknown comedian grinding away at comedy clubs, but the Apollo Comedy Hour gave him his first shot at reaching a wider audience through television. His performance featured what would become one of his signature bits, the now famous Malcolm XXL routine. This particular piece of material showcased O'Neal's fearless approach to comedy, tackling race, identity, and social commentary with the raw honesty that would define his entire career. The Apollo Theater, with its rich history as a proving ground for black entertainers, provided the perfect setting for O'Neal to introduce himself to television audiences. After this appearance, O'Neal went on to build a legendary career, appearing on shows like The Office, Arrested Development, and becoming a regular on Opie and Anthony radio show. He was known for his uncompromising comedic voice and his willingness to push boundaries in ways that made audiences think while they laughed. Sadly, O'Neal passed away in 2011 at just 41 years old, but his influence on comedy continues to resonate. For many comedy fans who discovered O'Neal's work after his death, the Apollo Comedy Hour footage represents a precious glimpse of the comedian at the very beginning of his journey, capturing the moment when a future legend first stepped into the television spotlight. Fact 2. MADtv's longest-serving star started here. Before becoming one of sketch comedy's most versatile performers, Deborah Wilson took her first steps in television acting on the Apollo Comedy Hour in 1992. Wilson joined the cast as a regular performer, using the show as a training ground to develop the incredible range of characters and impressions that would later make her famous. Her work on the Apollo Comedy Hour caught the attention of casting directors and industry professionals who recognized her natural talent for both comedy and character work. Just 3 years after her Apollo Comedy Hour debut, Wilson was cast as an original member of MADtv when it premiered in 1995. What nobody could have predicted at the time was just how essential she would become to that show's success. Wilson ended up staying with MADtv for 8 consecutive seasons, making her the longest-serving original cast member in the show's history. During her MADtv run, she became famous for her spot-on celebrity impressions, including Oprah Winfrey, Whitney Houston, and Diana Ross, as well as creating memorable original characters. Her ability to completely transform herself for each sketch made her one of the show's most valuable players. After leaving MADtv, Wilson continued working steadily, eventually becoming one of the most prolific voice actors in video games, lending her voice to hundreds of characters in major franchises. Looking back, the Apollo Comedy Hour served as the perfect incubator for Wilson's talents, giving her the space to experiment and grow before she became a household name in sketch comedy. Fact 3. Its time slot killed the show. The Apollo Comedy Hour faced an uphill battle from the very beginning, and many viewers and industry insiders point to one specific factor as the show's ultimate downfall: its terrible time slot. The show aired in syndication immediately following its showtime at the Apollo, which meant it was starting at a very late hour when many potential viewers were already going to bed. This scheduling decision proved to be a critical mistake that likely cut the show's lifespan short. While its showtime at the Apollo had a built-in audience and strong ratings, that audience didn't necessarily stick around for a second hour of Apollo Theater content. By the time the Apollo Comedy Hour came on, viewership numbers had already dropped significantly. Syndicated shows depend heavily on their time slots for success, and starting so late meant the show struggled to build and maintain a consistent audience. Many fans of the show have argued over the years that if the programming order had been reversed, with the Apollo Comedy Hour airing first and its showtime at the Apollo following it, the comedy sketch show might have survived much longer. Starting earlier in the evening would have given it access to a larger potential audience and better word-of-mouth buzz. The irony is that the show had talented performers, fresh comedy material, and the prestige of the Apollo Theater name behind it. But these advantages couldn't overcome the fundamental problem of being scheduled at a time when most of its target audience simply wasn't watching television. Despite running for 3 seasons, the show never achieved the ratings or cultural impact it might have reached with better scheduling. Fact 4. Friday's breakout star got her start. Paula Jai Parker brought her magnetic personality and comedic timing to the Apollo Comedy Hour, performing on the show for 1 year before pursuing the film career that would make her a household name. Parker was part of the original cast when the show launched in 1992, and she quickly became a standout performer with her ability to inhabit different characters and deliver punchlines with perfect timing. Her natural charisma and on-screen presence didn't go unnoticed, and after just 1 season on the Apollo Comedy Hour, Parker made the decision to leave the show and focus on breaking into movies. This gamble paid off spectacularly. In 1995, Parker landed the role of Joy in the cult classic film Friday, starring alongside Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. Her performance as the memorable Joy, who delivered one of the film's most quoted lines, "I got mine," became iconic in hip-hop culture and established Parker as a talented comedic actress. She continued building her film career with roles in movies like Sprung, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, and Hustle and Flow, where she played Lexus, a role that showcased her dramatic range alongside her comedy skills. Parker's decision to leave the Apollo Comedy Hour after just 1 season might have seemed risky at the time, but it allowed her to pursue opportunities in film that wouldn't have been possible while committed to a weekly television show. Her success story demonstrates how the Apollo Comedy Hour served as a stepping stone for talented performers who used the exposure to launch bigger careers in entertainment. Fact 5. Future ER star was a regular Lisa. Nicole Carson was a regular cast member on the Apollo Comedy Hour, honing her acting skills in sketch comedy years before she would become known for dramatic television roles. Carson performed alongside Paula Jai Parker and the rest of the ensemble cast during the show's early seasons, developing her versatility as a performer through the various characters and sketches the show required. Her time on the Apollo Comedy Hour gave her valuable experience working in front of live audiences and developing the quick timing necessary for comedy, skills that would serve her well throughout her career. Like Parker, Carson left the show after 1 season to pursue other opportunities in Hollywood. Her career trajectory took her in a more dramatic direction than comedy, leading to breakthrough roles in 2 of television's biggest shows of the late 1990s. Carson first gained major recognition playing Carla Reese, Dr. Peter Benton's girlfriend on the medical drama ER, appearing in multiple seasons of the critically acclaimed series. She then landed the role of Renee Raddick, Ally McBeal's best friend and roommate, on the hit legal comedy drama Ally McBeal. This role earned Carson 3 NAACP Image Award nominations and made her a familiar face to millions of viewers. Her character, Renee, was a prosecutor who provided a grounded counterpoint to the show's quirky lead character, showcasing Carson's dramatic abilities and natural screen presence. The Apollo Comedy Hour represented an important early chapter in Carson's career, giving her national television exposure and helping her develop the confidence and skills she would later bring to her dramatic roles on 2 of television's most popular shows. Fact 6. The comedian with tremendously silly hats. Among the cast members of the Apollo Comedy Hour, one performer became legendary for his outrageous visual style and commitment to absurdity. Cool Bubba Ice, whose real name was Roger McCobb, earned his memorable stage name through his hilarious antics and the strange costumes he wore during his performances. What made Cool Bubba Ice particularly memorable to audiences was his collection of what fans and fellow comedians described as tremendously silly hats. These weren't just ordinary comedy props. They were elaborate, eye-catching headpieces that became his signature trademark on the show. Each appearance seemed to feature a new and increasingly ridiculous hat, and audiences never knew what outlandish creation would appear on his head next. The hats became so associated with his comedy that fans still remember them decades later, even though most of the show's episodes have been lost to time. Kool Bubba Ice's commitment to physical comedy and visual humor set him apart from other cast members who relied more heavily on verbal jokes and character work. His stage name itself was a playful take on the hip-hop culture of the early 1990s, and his entire persona embraced a fun, over-the-top energy that made him stand out. The silly hats were more than just a gimmick. They represented his understanding that comedy works on multiple levels, and that sometimes the visual element can be just as funny as the words being spoken. While information about Roger McCobb's later career is limited, his time on the Apollo Comedy Hour left a lasting impression on viewers who appreciated his willingness to look absolutely ridiculous in service of getting a laugh. Fact 7. Only 2 white cast members ever. The Apollo Comedy Hour featured a predominantly black and Hispanic cast throughout its 3-season run, which made sense given the show's connection to the Apollo Theater and its place in the early 1990s landscape of black comedy programming. However, what's particularly notable is that during the show's entire run from 1992 to 1995, only 2 white performers ever joined the regular cast. Randall Ask was the first, appearing as a cast member during the show's early seasons. He was followed by Ilan Quitkin, who joined the cast later in the show's run. The presence of these 2 white comedians in a predominantly black and Hispanic ensemble was relatively unusual for the time period when television comedy was still largely segregated by race. Shows like In Living Color had featured diverse casts, but many comedy programs remained predominantly single-race in their casting. The Apollo Comedy Hour's decision to include white performers alongside its primarily black and Hispanic cast members reflected a more integrated approach to comedy that was ahead of its time in some ways. However, the overwhelming majority of the cast throughout all 3 seasons consisted of black and Hispanic performers, which was intentional given the show's roots in the Apollo Theater's history as a cultural institution for black entertainment. The limited number of white cast members throughout the entire series run, just 2 people over 3 years, demonstrates that the show maintained a strong commitment to showcasing black and Hispanic comedic talent while still allowing for some diversity in its ensemble. Fact 8. Same producers as Showtime at Apollo. The Apollo Comedy Hour wasn't just filmed at the famous Apollo Theater. It was actually produced by the same team responsible for one of television's most legendary variety shows. The same producers behind It's Showtime at the Apollo created the Apollo Comedy Hour, giving the sketch comedy show direct connections to an institution that had been launching entertainment careers since the 1930s. This shared production team meant the comedy show benefited from decades of experience in producing live entertainment at the Apollo Theater. The producers understood the unique energy of the Apollo's audience, the theater's technical capabilities, and how to create television programming that captured the electric atmosphere of the historic Harlem venue. Having the It's Showtime at the Apollo producers involved also gave the Apollo Comedy Hour immediate credibility in the entertainment industry. It wasn't just another sketch comedy show trying to ride the wave of early 1990s black comedy programming. It had legitimate connections to one of the most respected names in black entertainment history. The production team knew how to work with the Apollo's famous tough crowd, how to manage the theater's backstage operations, and how to capture performances that felt authentic to the venue's spirit. This connection also meant the comedy show could potentially draw from the same pool of talent that appeared on It's Showtime at the Apollo, creating opportunities for crossover appearances and shared resources. However, despite these advantages, the shared production team couldn't overcome the scheduling problems that ultimately limited the show's success. Still, the Apollo pedigree gave the Apollo Comedy Hour a foundation that few other comedy shows could claim. Fact 9. Host one amateur night before hosting. Phyllis Stickney brought a unique perspective to her role as host of the Apollo Comedy Hour, having experienced the Apollo Theater from the performer's side years before stepping into the hosting spotlight. In 1986, just 6 years before the Apollo Comedy Hour premiered, Stickney had won first place at Amateur Night at the Apollo Theater, one of the most prestigious and challenging competitions in entertainment. Amateur Night at the Apollo was legendary for its unforgiving audience, who had no problem booing performers off the stage if they didn't measure up. Winning first place meant Stickney had not only survived the Apollo crowd, but had genuinely impressed them with her talent. This experience gave her deep credibility when she took on the hosting duties for the comedy show. She understood what performers were going through because she had stood in that same spot, facing that same crowd, feeling that same pressure to deliver. Her journey from Amateur Night winner to television host represented a full-circle moment that embodied the Apollo Theater's role as a place where careers are launched. Stickney went on to have a successful acting career beyond the Apollo Comedy Hour, appearing in films like What's Love Got to Do with It and The Kingdom Come, as well as television shows throughout the 1990s and 2000s. Her hosting work on the Apollo Comedy Hour showcased her ability to connect with both the studio audience and viewers at home, using her warmth and understanding of the Apollo's unique atmosphere to guide the show through its sketch comedy segments and musical performances. Fact 10. British-Jamaican comic became a regular Ian Edwards brought an unusual background to the Apollo Comedy Hour's ensemble cast, having been born in England and raised in Jamaica, before eventually making his way to American comedy. Edwards was a series regular on the show despite being relatively new to the comedy world, having only started performing stand-up at age 21 while working at a Burger King drive-thru. His international upbringing gave him a unique perspective that set him apart from other cast members, and his British-Jamaican accent and sensibility added a different flavor to the show's comedy. The fact that Edwards landed a regular role on a nationally syndicated television show so early in his comedy career speaks to his natural talent and the impression he made during auditions. Most comedians spend years grinding away at open mics and small clubs before getting any television exposure, but Edwards managed to secure a spot on the Apollo Comedy Hour when he was still relatively inexperienced. His journey from working the drive-thru at Burger King to performing sketch comedy at the legendary Apollo Theater represents a remarkably quick rise in the comedy world. After the Apollo Comedy Hour, Edwards continued building his stand-up career, eventually becoming known for his intelligent, observational comedy that draws on his multicultural background. He's appeared on numerous comedy shows and podcasts over the years, developing a reputation as a comedian's comedian, someone whose peers recognize as exceptionally talented even if he hasn't achieved mainstream household name status. His time on the Apollo Comedy Hour gave him early television experience and exposure that helped establish him in the American comedy scene. Fact 11. Most episodes are lost media. The Apollo Comedy Hour has become something of a holy grail for television archivists and fans of 1990s comedy because most of the show's episodes have simply vanished. Despite running for 3 full seasons from 1992 to 1995, producing dozens of episodes during that time, very little of the show still exists in any accessible form today. Only scattered clips have survived, primarily showing up on YouTube through the efforts of fans who recorded episodes on VHS tapes back in the early 90s and have since digitized small portions of that footage. The show has gained attention on lost media forums, where dedicated hunters of rare and missing television content have listed the Apollo Comedy Hour as sought-after material. The reasons for the show's disappearance likely involve the complicated nature of syndication rights and the fact that, in the early 1990s, television networks and production companies didn't always prioritize archiving shows, especially syndicated programs that weren't considered major properties. Many syndicated shows from that era were recorded over or simply not preserved because storage was expensive and nobody anticipated future interest in streaming or digital distribution. The loss of these episodes is particularly frustrating for comedy historians and fans because the show featured early performances from several people who went on to become successful in entertainment. Watching those full episodes would provide insight into the development of these performers' talents and showcase comedy material that hasn't been seen in decades. Until someone discovers a complete collection of episodes in a storage unit or old television station archive, the Apollo Comedy Hour will remain partially lost to history. Fact 12. It mixed 3 comedy formats. The Apollo Comedy Hour distinguished itself from other comedy shows of its era by refusing to commit to just one style of comedy programming. Viewers and critics described the show as being part Saturday Night Live, part In Living Color, and part Def Comedy Jam, creating a unique hybrid format that attempted to serve multiple comedy appetites in a single hour. Like Saturday Night Live, the show featured sketch comedy with a regular ensemble cast performing written material in various character-based scenarios. The In Living Color influence came through in the show's emphasis on diverse casting, music, and a more urban comedy sensibility that spoke directly to Black and Hispanic audiences. The Def Comedy Jam element appeared through stand-up comedy segments where individual comedians would perform short sets, bringing the raw energy of live stand-up into the show's mix. Additionally, each episode of the Apollo Comedy Hour featured a musical act, adding another entertainment element that most pure sketch comedy shows didn't include. This variety show approach meant that viewers who tuned in would get sketches, stand-up comedy, and music all in one program. The format was ambitious, attempting to capture the full range of what made the Apollo Theater special. It wasn't just a comedy club or just a music venue, but a complete entertainment destination where anything could happen. However, this multi-format approach may have also made it difficult for the show to establish a clear identity in viewers' minds. Was it primarily a sketch show or a stand-up showcase or a variety hour? The answer was all three, which made it unique but potentially harder to market and schedule. Fact 13. Major cast turnover. Every season, the Apollo Comedy Hour struggled with significant cast instability throughout its 3-season run, with major performers leaving and new faces arriving almost every year. This constant turnover prevented the show from developing the kind of ensemble chemistry that made other sketch comedy shows successful. After the first season, both Paula Jai Parker and Lisa Nicole Carson, who had been prominent cast members, left the show to pursue other opportunities in Hollywood. Their departures represented a significant loss of talent and forced the producers to rebuild much of the cast going into Season 2. When Season 2 began, Grace Garland joined the ensemble, bringing fresh energy but also requiring time for audiences to get familiar with a new performer. The cast changes continued into Season 3 when Karen June Sanchez arrived, adding yet another new face to a lineup that kept shifting. This revolving door of talent made it difficult for the Apollo Comedy Hour to establish the kind of recurring characters and catchphrases that help sketch comedy shows build loyal audiences. Shows like Saturday Night Live and In Living Color succeeded in part because viewers developed attachments to specific performers and looked forward to seeing their favorite cast members each week. When cast members constantly change, audiences can't form those connections. The turnover also suggests possible behind-the-scenes issues with contracts, pay, working conditions, or creative direction that made cast members choose to leave rather than stay with the show. Whatever the reasons, the constant cast changes likely contributed to the show's inability to build momentum and maintain a stable audience throughout its run. Fact 14. Aired during comedy's Black Explosion. The Apollo Comedy Hour premiered at a pivotal moment in television history that viewers and critics later called the Black Comedy Explosion of the early 1990s. This period saw an unprecedented number of comedy shows created by, starring, and aimed at Black audiences appearing on television simultaneously. In Living Color had launched in 1990 on Fox and was enjoying massive success, proving that comedy shows centered on black performers could attract both black and white audiences and achieve mainstream popularity. Def Comedy Jam premiered on HBO in 1992, the same year as the Apollo Comedy Hour, giving stand-up comedians a platform to perform uncensored material that reflected authentic black experiences and perspectives. The Apollo Comedy Hour joined shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Martin, Living Single, and others that were reshaping television comedy and creating opportunities for black performers that simply hadn't existed before. This explosion of black comedy programming was revolutionary because for decades, television had offered very limited opportunities for black comedians and actors. Suddenly, in the early 1990s, multiple shows were on the air simultaneously, each offering different styles of black comedy, from the physical comedy and hip-hop influence of In Living Color, to the street comedy of Def Comedy Jam, to the sitcom formats of Martin and The Fresh Prince. The Apollo Comedy Hour attempted to carve out its own space in this crowded landscape by combining sketch comedy, stand-up, and musical performances all in one show. However, the abundance of black comedy programming may have actually worked against the Apollo Comedy Hour's success. Fact 15. Music Talent Executive had unique role. The Apollo Comedy Hour featured an unusual position in its production credits that most comedy shows don't have: a dedicated music talent executive. Mary Flowers held this role, and her job was specifically to book musical acts for each episode of the show. This was an uncommon arrangement because most sketch comedy shows either don't include musical performances at all, or they assign that responsibility to a general talent coordinator or producer who handles all guest bookings. By having someone whose entire job focused on securing musical talent, the Apollo Comedy Hour demonstrated its commitment to maintaining the variety show format that included live music alongside comedy. Flowers had to find artists who would appeal to the show's audience, fit within production budgets, and be available to perform during the show's taping schedule. Each episode featured a different musical act, which meant Flowers was constantly working to line up performers throughout the season. This approach connected the Apollo Comedy Hour to the Apollo Theater's long tradition of showcasing both comedy and music on the same stage. The Apollo had launched the careers of countless musicians over the decades, from Ella Fitzgerald to James Brown, and the theater remained an important venue for black musical artists in the 1990s. Having a music talent executive ensured that the television show maintained that musical component as an essential part of its identity, rather than treating music as an afterthought. The role also reflected the show's ambition to be more than just another sketch comedy program. It wanted to capture the full Apollo Theater experience.